No, I don't care.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think it's useful to, since we don't know each other, it's useful to get to know each other. Um, how long? What got you started into? Well, what's the term that you like that you use? Sovereign citizen, American national, free man. Like, what is it that you identify with?
Uh, I would say probably sovereign.
Yeah. And what got you into that?
It's a long story. I got in some trouble when I was younger with the
Yeah.
law, and I ended up doing a 2 to 4 in New York State Penitentiary. And I was adopted when I was younger, and so my name was changed and all that when I was adopted.
Yeah.
And well, I first came across a lot of this information when I was in jail by some people that were talking about it. And I'm not in trouble or anything like that anymore. I've grown up since then, you
Right.
know. And so I did some more research and found some stuff on the internet, and then just started taking what I saw on the internet and comparing it to what I saw in the law library in the local courthouse, and trying to figure out what's true and what's not true.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
uh,
And believe it or not, they actually shut the law library down.
yeah.
So
So
the last
why would they
time I
shut the
went, they
library
had
down?
me in the
Because you were.
library. But,
Why would they shut the library down? What happened? You were photocopying stuff, and how? Why would
well,
anybody?
I found that they were trying to say that I found that they were trying to say people were violating city ordinances that don't exist
Oh yeah.
in the city of Butler.
Uh huh.
So I was going to look up these ordinances that they got. Well, I looked up a lot of stuff, and then before they shut down the law library, there was a law library in there, right?
Right.
Law librarian. And the thing with a law library is you got to know how things are indexed, you know. So they got rid of the law librarian, and they basically had like a sheriff there that was watching everything I did, everything I was looking at, and
Really?
they weren't letting me know where everything is, yeah.
Huh.
And
They fired her, or
so,
did they just wouldn't let her talk to you? The
well, I
lot.
don't know what happened to her, but they shut down the whole law library, and they were trying to keep me from going in there. But it's a public, it's a county law library. They had to let me in there, so they let me in there, but they wouldn't let me. Basically, I was under watch. Basically,
Wow.
I was being watched when I was in there
Did they restrict your movement or
because
just
I was
watch
finding
you?
out things that they were doing was not legal. You know,
Did they restrict your movement or just watch you?
they just sat there and watched me like the whole time I was there. I had to have somebody there with me, like I was gonna steal some stuff or something.
Oh my
Like that's
goodness.
how they were acting. You
Wow.
know,
That's crazy.
yeah.
How long ago was that?
That was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
I've since moved. I'm out in the country now. Away, like there's no cops out here or anything like that.
That's
It's
good.
a really small town. It's all mountains and stuff.
Yeah,
And
my wife
they
and I
have
are
state
trying to do
troopers,
that.
but they're like 30, 45 minutes away.
Yeah. My wife and I are trying to
So
find some place out in the country. Get away from all the craziness.
yeah, well, there's a lot of people overdosing and Butler from like heroin and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
really?
it doesn't seem like they want to do anything about that. You know what I mean? But they want to harass people for other stuff. Like
Right.
basically what I went in to look up ordinances was about there was a street sweeper that would come through and put up signs that say you can't park there. Well, they said it was a ticket, but it was just a notice. Pay this in a certain amount of time, or we're gonna take you to court or whatever.
Right.
And I knew because I had been studying the law for a little bit, I realized that wasn't a ticket; it was just a notice.
Right.
So I didn't pay it. Then they sent me a ticket with an ordinance violation, and they listed a section of the city ordinance that I violated.
Yeah.
I went and looked up that section, and it was basically just a broad section that didn't have nothing to do with street sweeping or
Really?
anything.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I went to the county, one of the other county buildings, and told them what I found, and they said they just cited some other ordinance that basically says that the mayor has the right to shut down any street for emergency. I said, well, is street sweeping an emergency? You know?
Right.
So they were just trying to cover their own butt. But I went to court and I told the judge, magistrate this, and he found me guilty and said that the ordinance was online. He wouldn't even give me a copy of the ordinance. And if I was to fight even more, I could have appealed it to a higher court, but I didn't do that because I was going to have to pay to appeal it.
Right.
So it didn't make no sense for me to appeal it.
Yeah. Huh. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really hard to fight them. They own every. It's like playing a board game where someone can change the rules as they go, and they own all the Monopoly squares are already owned before you start the game.
Yeah. Well, they use words and stuff, and some of the people that work for them don't even understand what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
About this stuff. So it's like only some people know. Like there was an older guy in the courthouse when I was in the law library.
Yeah.
That I started talking about some of the stuff with, and he actually suggested that I go to the bar association to get my law license.
I've been told I should become an attorney too, but
I was talking about to a certain degree.
I've been told I should become an attorney too, but most of those people don't understand. I don't want to be an attorney. I don't want to be on that. I mean, it would be good to have the education, I suppose, but it's not. I don't want to be on their side.
Yeah, I don't want to be on their side either.
But the education would be good.
Yeah.
Assuming
the more you research it, you find out that they're doing a whole bunch of stuff they're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of education an attorney gets, but if it's anything like a cop, they probably get very biased information, so you might come away with it being less informed than anything else. But you'd probably be more equipped to do research.
What they want you to know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And of course, cops aren't very educated on the law either. They just enforce the laws that they believe is the law. Yeah, they're not
probably
educated
the worst.
on the law.
They're probably the worst because I don't know about their training, how much of it they actually have to like read themselves, or if it's just told to them is there. Like if they just go by a manual of compilations of orders, or they actually have to like read the laws. I don't think they ever crack open any statute or law book. I think if they have a manual that they have to memorize, basically. I don't know. It'd be interesting to talk to an honest cop.
Well, when I had some court cases in Butler because I got in a fight with my nephew.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving, and they tried to charge me with simple assault, and I ended up getting it thrown out, and they weren't too happy about that. Basically, I went in and it was the first time I ever represented myself.
Yeah.
And I went in there, I said I represent myself in appropriate persona, which is in proper person.
Yeah.
And he asked me, do you want to waive your... Because my nephew never even showed up. They were trying to charge me, and my nephew didn't want to charge me with anything. They just wanted to charge me anyways. And so I went in and I said I represent myself in appropriate persona, and that and the cop says, you want to throw out the case, or do you want to waive your right, or you want to waive your right to do a preliminary hearing? That's what they asked me. I might go up outside here. They asked me. My wife don't understand any of this stuff. She gets upset when I talk about it, but she don't like me talking about it. But her and my mother-in-law, they think that you should just do what they say,
Yeah.
But I even had some problems with the school here just recently here where we're living now. They called CYS, which is CPS here. They call it CYS here.
Oh, okay.
And we pulled them out and put them in homeschooling. And they called the CYS on us because they said, they lied and said that we wanted. They said that we didn't want a IEP. That wasn't true. We didn't get it done because she had her appendix burst. And long story, but they just basically lied,
Right.
and to get an investigation. And then I talked to a state trooper about it, and he says, "Oh, well, first I talked to a dispatch officer, and the dispatch officer tried to tell me that I had to let them in my house, which I know the law is pretty good. I don't have to let them in my house after a search warrant."
Right.
And then I said, "Well, I want to speak to a state trooper," and I talked to a state trooper, and the state trooper said, "We'll pretty much find something coming to your house."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They said, "Well, if you don't let them in, we'll find some reason to come into your house to search it."
Wow.
And everybody has some kind of dirty laundry to hide. Basically, that's what he said. And then when I was
Pretty
in Butler,
sketchy.
like I was saying with that case, that simple assault case, they were saying the cop there, the DA and the cop were talking to each other in the courtroom. They had this little courtroom set up, but they only had the people. They didn't have like they in Butler. They don't allow people to come into the courtrooms to observe.
Oh,
So
really?
you have to have a case, some kind of case. Yeah, you have to have some kind of case in the courts, and
They're not open to the
so
public?
they were talking to each other, and they were talking as if the Constitution was it didn't have no merit anymore. Like the DA was talking to the law enforcement officer and saying that the Constitution don't mean nothing anymore.
Well, I've heard some talks about that, and in court, it's all about commerce, and in reality, the Constitution isn't in effect in that situation. It's all about um, commerce law and like what's on the paper, what's on the paper in the court at that moment, basically. Like they don't really care about the Constitution if there's something on a piece of paper that they can have.
I have a bunch of grow lights set up, grow a bunch of vegetables.
It's really sad how they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, they're so used to dealing with people that don't understand anything, anything, that they just do what they want. And then you have the people that are set to enforce everything, and they don't know anything, so they don't know what they're enforcing really. But what I found is I went into the law library and I looked into the Black's Law Dictionary, and a lot of the stuff is there in the Black's Law Dictionary.
Yep.
I made several videos on YouTube about that, and I lost access to my YouTube channel, so I tried to recover it, but I don't have the same email anymore. And so Google will send you a link to reactivate it to another email usually, but they've completely locked me out of that account, so I can't even recover it at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they didn't ban the account. What they did is they made it so I can't access it anymore.
So nobody can access it.
Well, you can see what's on it. You just can't. I can't access it to upload it.
Yeah. No, I actually watched a couple of your videos. I watched them. They're on there for sure.
I have 50 subscribers on it.
Huh. Well, that's
and so yeah, so that's been my journey. Is I've been comparing what I find on the internet, what I find in the law library, and trying to piece everything together. And from there, but a lot of what they're saying on the internet is true. Like I did find a whole book full of UCC books in the law library.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of it's true. The problem.
It was in the law library, but it wasn't like it was in a back portion of the law library, and it was closed off. Like I had to ask specifically for the.
Oh man, you're breaking up on me.
Like it wasn't like they had one room set up. It's warm. I have really crappy internet out here too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It was breaking up for a second, but it's back.
You there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. So, yeah, the UCC was in totally another room that I didn't even know about until I asked about it. And the law librarian was the one that told me about it.
Wow.
When I asked specifically for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
I know that there's a lot of good information out there. My problem has been trying to find the right way to connect the dots and sifting through. Now, I'll give you an example of some information that I think is bogus, but it's from a source that I basically trust. I mean, I think she's got good information. It's from Anna von Reitz. And she says in a lecture, and maybe in her book, I can't remember if it's in her book or not, to go down to the DMV and get a Z plate. It's a private plate that's under Regulation Z and costs like $230, and you don't have to buy. It's like, oh, she said it comes with black tags or something like that. I went down to the DMV. I actually have a video of me going to the DMV and just asking for the, not if they have it, it's like, I would like to get a Z plate. And they have no idea what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, a Z plate. It's a private plate, whatever. Basically just acted like it was real and that they need to, find it on their computer and order me a Z plate. So they go on the computer, they're looking through all their options and whatever, and they have not only are they confused, but they can't find any reference to a private plate at all, which was really disappointing because I thought that would have been pretty sweet. And I did some research into the Regulation Z. It actually has nothing to do with travel. It has to do with something to do with loaning money, like fairness, whatever. Anyway, that's frustrating.
It seems like there's a lot of misinformation out there too. That's what's the most frustrating is you find a lot of people that are trying to sell you information.
Yeah.
And they want a lot of money for this information. How do you know if it's even real?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you pay money for something that could be a scam?
Mm-hmm.
But where I've had a lot of, when digging into the law library, looking at certain terms, I know there's certain things that hold a lot of power, like the affidavit,
right,
which is supposed to be a sworn statement of truth, So there's a video we were watching before you called, actually, that talked about affidavit of status. So declaring your status in an affidavit.
Yeah.
And then some of the things that they talk about, like in the redemption manual, they talk about UCC filing a UCC-1 financing statement with the state, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, if you go on the state website in Pennsylvania, they originally had the UCC-1 financing statement online that you could download.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to try to search for that information now, though, it wouldn't come up. But it's still there. It's just hidden a little bit. Like you have to go under the Articles of Corporation, and then you can find that paperwork. So they hid it.
Interesting.
I don't know why they're hiding it, but I'm guessing because they don't want people finding it. I don't know exactly what it does. They say that they use that to basically declare your status and take control of everything you own. So I've seen a number of different people that use that financing statement to put everything that they own into it, even themselves.
Here's the thing, though. This is the thing that I've found.
And then, like I said, there's also tacit agreements. They use tacit agreements against you a lot of times.
Right.
They'll say you have this amount of time to respond. If you don't respond, basically, they're giving you a certain amount of time to respond. If you don't respond, then you don't dispute it.
Right.
And so they use tacit agreements in everything that they send you. Even that notice that they sent me, they put a 7-day tacit agreement in there. Well, I went down to the police station and I said, this is a tacit agreement and I disagree with this.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Okay.
Yeah. But you can't prove a lot of that stuff in court unless you have it.
Right.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh yeah. One of the things I came across. Have you done any looking into the Lighthouse Law Club? Have you heard of them?
No, I saw you posted some stuff. I didn't really look too much now.
One of the things he got me thinking about was, it doesn't matter how right you are if you can't get anybody else to acknowledge it, and it's right because, so for example, I got my state citizenship passport card. I already had a passport saying I was a U.S. citizen, whatever, but I was told that if you apply for the card, the application will update all your information. And so I did it as a non-U.S. citizen, no social, all of that stuff, right? So when I got the card, I could give that for identification for if I got stopped, by a cop or something like that. That video. Okay, so that's really interesting. That may be right. There may be some information on that passport card that shows I'm a state citizen, but guess what? I did research. I mean, I actually called the sheriff's department. I called like 3 different departments in town, plus the FBI, and I called the FBI in Portland. I called all over the place, and it doesn't even matter what the passport card says because they're just going to run your name and date of birth anyways and find your license. They don't even have the capability of finding out what's on your passport. They would have to submit it and wait a couple of weeks to even have the information. So it's like, well, that might be right, but that doesn't do me any good. That's frustrating. That's really frustrating. You
And they
know?
don't. I mean, if you didn't have an ID, they would run your social security number and date of birth and your name. So, and I don't know.
Well, the state
I
passport
don't
card
know.
is supposed
All the
to.
time I just stand still because I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to go from here because I know some of the information is correct, but I don't know exactly what I should do with it. You know.
Right. So here's what I've come to the conclusion. Because the passport card is my biggest example of something that might be right, but nobody cares about it because they don't even have the capability of
Yeah,
knowing.
it obviously went through for you, so that's why I found it was interesting because I I haven't until I met you. Actually, I haven't found anybody that actually went along and did that. I mean, I've seen some videos online, but I haven't actually seen
Oh,
anybody
I've seen
show me
videos
video.
of people saying this is what you should do. I've never seen any videos of people actually following through and saying, this is my story, what I tried, this failed, this worked. I haven't seen hardly any videos about that. That's really frustrating.
Yeah,
What's supposed to happen with the state passport card, I'm sure you probably know this, is that when you get stopped, they run the card and it's supposed to be on, a special list of people with different citizenship. That How are they going to do that if they can't even have the capability of running it? Right?
yeah, that's the thing. They're not set up to run a passport card.
Right.
They're looking for a state identification, and
And
then now I don't know how it is there where you are, but in Pennsylvania, I found this out because I let my license expire at one time, and I
mm-hmm.
had to take the whole thing over again. It was a New York State license. And in Pennsylvania, they told me if you let your license expire over a certain amount of time, you got to redo it. So I'm guessing, I don't know if I'm guessing it still probably comes up expired in the system somewhere, right?
I guess so. Well, if I see the thing that I want to do is start working with under a trust, like have everything under a trust, not own any cars, not own any property, not even have any jobs, everything under trust. But then there's the issue. Like I talked to my employer, I've done contracts through an agency before, and I asked my employer, would it be possible to start a trust
Oh,
and have a contract with the trustee or the trust, and have the trust be the one that is employing me, and you pay the trust, and the trust takes care of my expenses. Basically, it's just agency. And they said, "Oh no, we couldn't do that." It's like, well, why not? I'd actually be saving you guys a whole bunch of money. You wouldn't have to pay any benefits. You just, give me compensation for you don't. You're not even paying me. You're paying the. But I think working under a trust is a really good idea. I just don't know how to do it
oh
because
yeah,
there's a trust for you can have specific trusts for like a car or a piece of property, and you can have an umbrella trust for your estate for like your whole life. I would like to start with like a trust for your whole life, and I guess have these little trusts underneath of it, but getting them all set up and I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of research into that, but I think that is a really good way to go because if you have a car that's not registered to you, and if you do, like, here's the thing with Mark Emery with Lighthouse Law Club. It's really cool. Instead of trying to fight for your right to travel, go to like, rent an apartment in Canada for 6 months and get a driver's license in Canada. So, I mean, that's a kind of an expensive endeavor, which I can't afford. So that when you're in the U.S., they pull you over. Your car is like not registered to you, and you show them your Canadian driver's license. So you're basically a tourist. And when you go to Canada, you show them your US passport. So you're always a tourist, no matter where you go. And so
Yeah.
they think they don't have as much hold over you because you're just passing through. You actually are traveling, even though you're not fighting for the right to travel. In effect, you're fighting less and getting more rights accomplished by playing their game against them. And I think that's smarter than some of the other advice I've heard.
Yeah.
Um,
Now there was this book that was written by ex-British intelligence or something. It was called How to Be Invisible. You ever heard of that?
I have heard of it. I haven't read it.
I've read it, and he talks about not using your home address or anything, and
Mm-hmm.
using corporations to do business in. And then there's even a couple prominent people that have written books like Donald Trump, and there's another one, Robert Kiyosaki, where he talks about corporation. Robert Kiyosaki has a whole book on corporation and how he talks about in his book how the rich want to own control everything but own nothing, right?
Right.
So over the years, I figured out the only way you can own or control everything and own nothing really is through a nonprofit, really.
Doesn't technically the government actually own the nonprofit or something? They have it's regulated pretty highly, isn't it?
Yeah. Um, in that book, How to Be Invisible, they talk about using New Mexico Corporation, though.
Oh,
That
yeah.
has certain states have less laws when it comes to um, on the regulation side.
Mm.
So, like, I guess New Mexico is supposed to be pretty good or something like that. But and then other things I found out just because over the last several years I've been trying to do business under my own name
Uh-huh.
instead of working. Over the years I've worked for some people, and then I've tried to do business under my own name
Right.
as much as possible. I've been trying to get my own business going. Right now I'm doing beekeeping, and then I also do a lot of my own gardening. So I was trying to sell like little plants and stuff like that. And
Right.
I actually bought some land in Colorado in the San Luis Valley.
Oh.
What I found was interesting when I bought the land out there that they didn't even ask for a social security number. They just took me and my wife's name. We did all the paperwork with our ID and stuff, but they don't even have my social security number on file over there
Oh, wow.
for the property,
Huh.
which I thought was interesting. What else?
Have you ever tried doing a common law ID?
No, I haven't actually tried to do any, ID or anything like that. All I've done is like try to study as much as I could in the law books,
Right.
you know. And one thing I understood was that another thing is when you take a lawyer, when you go to court and you actually take a public defender or a lawyer of any sort, you actually giving them, if you're not like if you just hire an attorney or whatever, they have all the authority to act as you.
Yeah, you're basically saying you're incompetent and you're a child.
Yeah. So the last time I went to court, I went in and I didn't even take an attorney. I said that I want to represent myself in appropriate persona. And anytime when you do anything like this, the first thing they would tell you is that you need to take an attorney. I wouldn't recommend you not doing that, blah, blah. You know.
And you say, I don't understand your recommendation.
Yeah. And then even when you go to talk to a lot of people, like when I was in the law library and I was in the courthouse talking to certain people, none of them really wanted to give me any information. They just wanted to tell me to go get an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I was trying to file certain paperwork with the courthouse and stuff, and I was trying to figure out how to do that stuff, and they just wanted me to get an attorney. So
yeah. What would you?
The first thing they say is you need to get an attorney. Well,
right.
Through my own research, I found that if I get an attorney, then I'm just saying that I'm incompetent and I don't know how to represent myself.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want you representing yourself.
What would you say?
They do not want you representing yourself.
Yeah. What would you say would be your top things that you found researching that was misinformation?
Misinformation.
Yeah, stuff that sounded too good to be true. When you researched it, it really was.
I wouldn't say I haven't found a lot of stuff that's misinformation. It's just a lot of stuff I can't verify.
Oh
I
yeah.
guess the stuff that there's a lot of stuff that, like the whole driving without a license, it's like one of those things where if you actually try to follow through with some of that, do you really want to deal with some of the consequences that might occur? you know,
Right.
because it
Yeah, it
is
could be
forcing and
pretty
intimidation
severe. It could
to
be
get you to
pretty.
do what they want you to do.
I
You
actually
know,
have seen a video of somebody doing that very thing, and the police officer said, "Okay, well, it looks like you're just exercising your rights. Have a good day." I'm like, "What just happened?" That's crazy, but
yeah,
that
I've
doesn't
seen
happen
stuff
very
like that, and
often.
then I've also seen stuff like where people get the crap beat out of them.
Yeah, that's why I think I want to
I think
try
it all
and
depends on who you're dealing with.
do as much as I can with the correct way with creating my own ID and my right to travel and some of these other things. But I want to do it in such a way where I sort of hedge my bets a little bit so I don't necessarily get thrown in the can for a long time. But the
Yeah.
trying to look like a permanent tourist is probably the best option, I think. Oh, I'm from somewhere else. I'm from Canada.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that they would really even care about, really. If you're just passing through, whatever, they give you a warning, move along, whatever. You don't own any. You don't. The state doesn't own the property. They have no interest in it, and I don't have any interest in it. So there's like no reason for them to do anything. They can't. It's like it belongs to a trust and whatever, out in limbo, basically.
Oh yeah, like I said, Robert Kiyosaki says the rich want to control everything but own nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
if you take away everything that they can seize and take from you, then they can't take nothing from you.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm just really
So
curious because some of these things they have like I did the whole 3 cent stamp thing, right? And it got me thinking because the it was going through every time, and when I would do it wrong on purpose, it would always get rejected. Is that all
is it
computerized
the mail
or
you're talking about?
huh?
You talking about the 3 cent stamp?
Right, yeah. And it got me thinking, how do they actually honor the system without informing any of their employees what's going on? Like, how do they do that? Because I've talked to the employees at the U.S. Postal Service, and they have no clue, even that I mailed these 3 cent stamp letters, or that they have no idea that it was going on. I'm like, lady, I've been doing this for months now through your building here, and I'm curious what kind of steps do they have to do to actually honor it, but their workers keep them in complete ignorance because someone has to be able to put their hands on that envelope at some point and then make a decision about what to do with it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know how they can have
I
such.
don't know if it's all done by computer or I don't know how they're doing that. I saw that you were posting some stuff about that. I don't know. So what you had like a certain format that you
Uh,
had to do the envelopes in?
yeah, yeah. Basically, now I've seen different things on this, but you're sending it non-domestic. Here, I got the labels right here. I can read it. Um, first class non-domestic mail, um, without the United States or outside of the United States, and um, the address is in care of CO, and then your address, basically because you're trying to distinguish that address is not part of my identity. I'm just receiving mail there. That's not my permanent residence. It's just where I pick up my mail, basically. And
Yeah.
then you like southeast or northwest or whatever, you spell it out. You don't use any abbreviations. If it's street or drive or avenue, you spell everything out. And then Oh wow, they messed up on my label. That's interesting. Huh. Anyway, spell everything out. Make sure you don't use an abbreviation for Oregon or for whatever state you're in, and don't use a zip code. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it goes
Unless
through, and you can
unless
use
it
a
go back to
3-cent
some
stamp.
treaty or something.
What's that?
Does it go back to some treaty or something like that?
It goes back to there's another label I had made up. It references Book 12, Statutes at Large, Chapter 71, Section 23, 37th Congress, Session 3. Anyway, that's what it references. But there's more than one reference. I mean, technically, 3-cent stamps actually designates business in the U.S., and 2-cent stamps designate post outside the U.S., so non-domestic post in the states of the Union. So technically, I'm kind of doing a contradiction, but I didn't know that when I bought all the stamps. So, you know.
Yeah, and there seems to be some people that know about this stuff, and some people that have no clue. You know what I mean? And then the people that do know about some of this stuff, they're not trying not to let on too much of what they know.
Yeah, I actually am trying to get an interview with the postmaster here in Pendleton, and he said he couldn't do it. He had to get permission from his upper up, and that they would try and reach out to me and arrange an interview. I'm like, oh my goodness, this will never happen. All I want to do is ask 5 questions. I probably shouldn't have, but I don't know if it's better. I sent them all the questions because he asked for them. So I sent them the questions I wanted to ask. And it'd be like 10-minute interview, and he hasn't got back with me. I checked in with him a couple of times, but he said that somebody else was going to get with me. But how cool would it be to actually have like a postmaster confirm some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Instead of just basically what I find is a lot of it is hearsay. I mean, you can look up the actual codes and statutes, but actually finding real life examples of it actually happening is really difficult.
Oh yeah, that's why when I come across some of your videos, you were actually doing some of this stuff and coming back. I was like really surprised that the state passport and stuff actually went through. Like that's one of the reasons why I never actually did it is because I didn't want to waste that money and then just not go through.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It could be a waste because what they could have done is looked up all my information and just inserted it into it, and they just gave me a regular passport card. I did a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request to the State Department and Department of State, I guess. I don't know how long that's going to take for them to get back to me, but that should give me the file attached to my passport card, and I should be able to know 100% if it shows a different status or not. But
yeah.
I don't think I can do anything with it anyways, but at least I would know for one way or the other.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, and then it makes you wonder where are these people getting their information from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Have you read that one moonshine, whatever, full moon moonshine, whatever, distill? Everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, that's originally where I came across the state.
Yeah, that's the one article that everybody references, right? He talked about, so now I have my state passport. I've tried finding car insurance companies that will honor that and give me the state citizenship discount. They're like, what are you talking about? We won't even attach it to your policy. And they 100% need a driver's license in order to give you car insurance. I mean, they don't care if you have any of that stuff. They're like, but it was in this article I read on the internet. You have to care about it.
I don't know about your state, but one thing I found in Pennsylvania, doing some research, is in Pennsylvania, and I don't know exactly what you have to do to get this, but I know that you can get what is some type of insurance that's not through an insurance company if you can prove that you can pay for the damages. Like I think you have to set the money away in a trust or some sort.
It's a bond. You bond your vehicle. Yeah, you can do that if you have the money for it. I think it's a pretty big chunk of change. Like technically, they can't make you buy insurance, and technically they can't make you do the bond, but the bond is acceptable in the court's eyes as opposed to insurance. If I had a chunk of change, that would be great. Then you wouldn't have any monthly payments or anything like that.
And then there's a number of people that claim that the birth certificate is a bond or some sort.
It's one of those things that they're probably right, but what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Treasury Direct Accounts, the TDAs?
Yeah, I heard about that too. I actually went down to the Social Security office and asked about that number on the back.
What'd they say?
They gave me a printout. I don't think I have it anymore, but I can't remember exactly what they said about it. But they didn't say. They said it wasn't some special account or anything like that. I forgot exactly what they said about it, but
well, I personally think that it is, but I think if you try and access it, you'll be in a lot of trouble.
And somebody else said that you could take that the number that's on the birth certificate and you can look it up on the stock exchange. Now I tried to do that, and there was stuff that came up, but it wasn't for that much money. It was like somewhere around $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah. I've seen people try and use their Treasury Direct accounts with the social and the back of the number and their whatevers. And they've actually been able to, because it all equates to routing numbers and account numbers. It's all the same format. I've seen people buy stuff off of Amazon using the whatever they do with their social security card. But the thing is, I've never seen any follow-up videos like 6 months after the purchase was made, because it takes them a while, because it doesn't go directly from the Treasury to Amazon. It goes through Telecheck is one of the main ones. And so by the time it all gets cleared, it's all basically being cleared on an IOU basis, and then it bounces back as by the time you have your package and it's all been paid for, it starts bouncing back through the chain saying, there's no money there, or they don't have authority to access it or something. And people have been fined and thrown in jail, but nobody ever does any follow-up on how they've gotten in trouble over it. And I think it's really chicken of people to make these sensational videos and then not do any follow-ups, like, oh, I was wrong, this didn't work.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
No, it's not cool. It's not.
Because I was really excited about the TDA accounts for a long time.
That's why I started looking into all this stuff in the law library,
Yeah.
And I found a lot of stuff that was true, but when it comes to all these account numbers or all this other stuff, I don't know what to make of all that, you know what I mean? Or special identification. Now, the stuff that I have verified in the law library, I know is true. Like your all caps name is an artificial person, you know what I mean? And I did a video on that, the natural person, artificial person. But that stuff is true. Right. There is such things as affidavits and tacit agreements, and all that stuff is real, But in the same sense, I've talked to people in the courthouse, and they act as if I have no authority to tie somebody up in a tacit agreement. Like, they have the authority to do it, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what they want me to think, like that. I don't know. And then once you have the tacit agreement with somebody, what do you do there? Then after that, at that point, you know what I mean?
Right.
I had an instance with a landlord. We moved into this house we were renting, and he said he was going to fix his window. Here it is coming into wintertime, he still hasn't fixed his window. So I wrote up a affidavit, sent to him certified mail. Basically said, you're costing me money, all this stuff. He came over right away and fixed it. Came over right away. I said, if I had to go to court, I'm going to charge you $1 million an hour or something like that, or something along those lines. And he never responded to the affidavit, so I probably could have got him with some trouble over that, you know what I mean, if I wanted to, but I never followed through with it,
Right.
He came over and fixed the window, but after that, he never responded to the affidavit, so technically I could still probably get him in trouble.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the notary understood what I was doing when I went and got everything notarized.
Yeah.
Affidavit is just a sworn statement of truth. So you can write anything you want in an affidavit, you know.
I might do that. I know I've seen affidavit of, sovereignty or affidavit of
status.
Yeah, I've seen those. I mean, that might be more useful than the common law ID, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Instead of trying to like come up with like IDs and do all this other stuff that you don't know exactly if it's going to work, an affidavit I know is a powerful tool that would work. You know what I mean? And then what I don't understand is that lady at the notary. I don't understand why she was giving me a bunch of trouble about signing that paperwork. It don't make no sense. All she's supposed to do is witness it, you know.
And she even said she didn't care.
The that you had go with you was acting like he didn't know what he was signing. So I guess maybe that might be a reason not to do it. But it's not. It doesn't matter what you do with it afterward. You know what I mean?
Right.
That doesn't concern her really.
I want to go undercover and get so what really happened there, just between you and me, but be secretly recording it and find out what's going on with that whole situation if I can catch her relaxed, because that didn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, I don't know what the laws are out there, but I know in Pennsylvania you got to watch out with that recording people, because in Pennsylvania they have some laws on the book that equate it to wiretapping. Like there was a cop in Butler that arrested somebody for illegal wiretapping, because in Pennsylvania you have to have both people's consent to I would say record audio. I don't know about video.
Like if I was recording this and without your consent, I wouldn't be able to use it in court because it's audio and video. It would need two-party consent. I think in Oregon, one-party consent is fine for audio, but if you're in a public place and you have no expectation of privacy, I don't need your consent. And you're a city worker, a public.
Well, that's how it should be, you know.
A public employee, I don't need your consent.
Arrested people for that shit and charged them with illegal wiretapping.
Well, I'm not gonna submit it. I'm not submitting it to a court. Yeah.
And I've actually looked up some of the laws on the internet, and it does say in Pennsylvania you can't record anybody in Pennsylvania without their consent. They say in Pennsylvania they're saying that you need both parties' consent.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Like there was a video, if you Google like Butler City Police on YouTube, there's a video of this guy that got arrested in Butler for illegal wiretapping because he was recording the cop.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Like he went down to a place that he worked at and they wouldn't pay him. They called the cops and he recorded the cops. But I know this cop personally. This is one of the cops that I've dealt with, and he's one of the cops that believes the Constitution has no merit. You know what I mean?
That's scary.
I've sat there and watched, but yeah, what's interesting is they'll say stuff like that, but like on TV they always want to reference the Constitution when they talk about the president. You know what I mean? Oh, this is a constitutional crisis, and blah blah blah.
Yep, they have a language for the masses, and then they use their own language. So they use what we think is, the most ignorant people think the Constitution is like the pinnacle of democracy, and so they use that as a way of speaking to us, but they don't use it in their own practices. They don't care about it. It's like two different layers.
Subvert the Constitution wherever they can. And some of the research I've found is that there's actually a Supreme Court. There's a book that has Supreme Court rulings on the Constitution that has fundamentally changed the Constitution too. Now, I don't actually have a copy of that book, but some of the research I've found. So common law is, from my research, common law is statutory, but basically court based off of court cases. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yeah. But if common law, but most court cases are based on commercial law, so I was always taught that common law and commercial law were sort of different. Like common law was more of people dealing with each other. Like if I harm you, there's a crime. If I don't harm you or your property, there's no crime. But in commercial law, if I violate a code or statute, then that's a crime. So it's like I was always told that they were different. I don't know. It gets so confusing. It can get really confusing.
A lot of it is confusing, and the fact that they have all these different types of laws is even more confusing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like depending on what, and there's state law and there's federal law too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm gonna let you go. Yeah, I'll let you go, and it's good chatting with you. It's good meeting you, and I will just keep watching. I'll watch your channel, and hopefully, I'll be getting some good practical knowledge and experience on the internet soon. Hopefully.
Well, like I said,
without
one
getting
thing
kicked in.
I would suggest is to actually go into, if there is a law library around you, even there's something I was wanting to do is I was wanting to actually go check out some of the Capitol libraries, because in most states they have huge archives and huge libraries in the capitals. Like New York has a New York library. The libraries are usually bigger in the state capitals, and there's probably a lot more information in those libraries.
Yeah, that's about a 5-hour drive. I'd have to definitely spend some time there.
Yeah. Well, they also archive all the newspapers there, and usually, you know what I mean, all that stuff.
Huh. I'll look into that.
Like in Albany, New York, they have a big library, and they have the state archives there too.
It would be good to look into all that. It would be nice to live closer.
Another guy I came across on the internet that talked about a lot of what he learned was in the law libraries, and he says if you want to understand what was going on during that time period, you need to read a book by someone that was alive during that time period.
Right. Exactly.
Because he read a bunch of books on slavery, and by people that were alive when there was slavery. And I guess back then it was a common knowledge that if any portion of your salary was taken from you before you received it, it was slavery. So basically what he's saying is that we're all under a form of slavery even now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know that much to be true.
When you work for someone else, they take your money, they give it to the government, and then they give you your money. But when you work for yourself, you pay the government out of the money you have, basically. So it's almost like we really want to be free, you'd have to be self-employed to begin with.
Yeah, I would love to be self-employed. That would be great. I've looked into different angles on that.
I've been trying to do it for a while now. It's not as easy as it looks like.
It's not easy. Yeah. Okay, man. Well, hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, well,
I'll keep in contact with you, letting you know when I figure out stuff I'll try.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about going down some of these routes with the affidavit of the status, and then trying to tie it in with some kind of tacit agreement, send it to some of the state officials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Try to get them to respond.
Get it documented, video as much as you can. If you don't have access to your channel, I can put it on mine, but if we find anything that's really useful that needs to be out there, it needs to be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We need more people sharing information and not charging for information. And, you know what I mean? That's what I think.
Oh my goodness. Every time I think there's somebody out there actually going to be giving information, like real information, it's really just an hour and a half plug for some membership. But wow.
Yeah. That's what I'm finding most of the time.
Wow.
Is that most of the people that say they know what they're talking about and want to give you some information that you got to pay for it. You know?
Right.
So, I'm not going to pay for something I don't know if it's true. I know you're just not trying to get some money from me, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, I think some of this information should be free. You shouldn't charge for some of this information. Yeah.
The information probably is already
Some of the stuff
available,
taught in
but
school, honestly, some of the stuff they expect us to know the law. Why isn't law taught in school?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you go.
Okay, man. I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.